I'm going to hand this off to Gabrielle, who is going to be presenting tonight. And Gabby, why don't you take it away?
So we're going to talk a little bit today about community research, ways to get information from your family that is all in gatherings that are not. So, what are some of those ways and what do you mean? Family gatherings are a great time to talk to people. Corey says you can't hear me. Can you still not hear me, Corey? No? No hearing.
No,
Okay.
Marilyn.
Then we're going to do this old fashioned equity way.
Yeah, Marilyn also said she can't hear.
All right, how's that? Old fashioned echoey way it is.
There we go.
So, talking about family gatherings, getting together with people, getting them talking. Some people can be a little more hesitant to talk than others. So you play games, get them to have fun, get them to interact with each other. You can maybe get some information that they don't realize they're sharing or that they wouldn't think to normally share. But remember, this isn't an interrogation. So you're not going to sit there and pepper them with question after question after question. The goal is to have fun. Most of the things we're going to share can be played for all ages, but you might need to have some backup questions. So if one of the questions is, tell me about what year you graduated high school and you have middle schoolers. Well, if they get that question, then obviously their question is, what grade are you in middle school? So if they're easy to tweak, everything we're doing, you can make to fit your family dynamic and what you're trying to look at. Make sure you have a way to save your information. Trust me, you are not going to remember that story that great Aunt Betty told on your drive home. Make sure you have a way to save it, whether that's recording it, whether that's pen and paper, typing it on your phone, whatever works for you. So we're talking about family stories and getting information from people. So do you believe everything they tell you? Well, if they tell you they were born in December in Iowa, you can probably be pretty good on that one, and that's easy to check. If someone tells you a memory of an event, oh, my family went to the Grand Canyon and we had such a great time and we rode donkeys and we saw a rattlesnake. Well, that's their memory, that's their perception of that event. You take that at face value. If they tell you, oh yeah, did you know that great grandpa was great pals with Prince Edward? Well, that's a nice, cool family lore. You're probably not figuring that one out for some fact basis. So, tips. People are more likely to share with you if they're having fun, if they're relaxed. Photos are a great source to jog memories and maybe incite some laughter. Got any 70s photos hanging around your house? Maybe some 80s graduation hair? Travel photos, silly photos, and have everything ready. Don't be like me when I got here today and forgot everything I needed to play the game. So have everything ready when you go so you're not hunting around making things happen. So let's get into some of the games. And these are examples. You can do a lot of different things with these. You can make the questions personalized to you, personalized to your family. Some of these are going to work better in large groups. They're going to work better in smaller groups. You're going to hear me say know your audience quite a bit because that's really important. So the first one is surprise me. It might sound familiar to anyone in person. You're going to take a piece of paper. All your guests are going to write down something about themselves that they think no one knows. Put the paper in a receptacle. We're going to read the paper. When our online presentation is done, we're all going to play. And we're going to read what you wrote. And everyone votes on who they think wrote that fact. And then the person who wrote it has to own up to it. So you want to encourage them to share something unique and something people wouldn't really know. So our example was Jerry probably should not write down that he was part of the fire department. We might all guess that. Some of us would. Well, some of us aren't paying attention then. Two truths and a lie. This is an old game, but it works. You ask them to tell you two truths and a lie. So 3 facts. And 2 of those are going to be true, one's going to be a lie. They need to make that lie as believable as possible. So mine could be that I have 3 cats. I graduated from Wichita State University, and all of my grandmothers lived over the age of 95. And you guys have to decide which is a lie. Mom doesn't get to vote. You can do this as groups, pit groups against each other. You can just have individuals vote. Sometimes the facts can get risque. So make sure your audience appropriate with what's getting said. And if you want them to keep their facts and lies within a parameter, you can do that. So I want you to give me 2 facts and a lie about growing up, if you're trying to narrow down things a little bit. Something to remember about all of these games is you're probably not going to find Great Aunt Betty's birth date all of a sudden, but what you might find is information you didn't know. Because one of the hardest things when you're putting a family story together is if no one's ever talked about it, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know to ask a question or to go research it. And that's kind of what these are meant to do, is fill in those little bubbles that you didn't realize had happened. So relative bingo, really not bingo. It's a card with a grid on it. The players have to go, and which in each grid are things to go find. So someone who's born in the 1950s, someone who's born in 2000s, someone who went to school out of state, someone who's traveled out of the country, whatever you want it to be. And the people have to go around the room and find someone who fits in each square. But each person can only go in 1 square. So you don't get to have one person who takes up 5 squares. 1 square. You can do this as a timed event. You can make it an all event thing. And then ideally you're going to come back with your cards. And I don't remember if you remember grading tests in class where the teacher said, get your multiple choice test out, and A was the answer to this, B was the answer to that. You're going to go through and say, okay, born in the 1950s. Who do you, I have Maryland. Who do you have? And just see what's coming out of these squares. Because you only get 1 person per square. If you only have 4 people at your gathering, this one really doesn't work. But if you've got a larger gathering, I would say you probably need at least 6 to 10 people minimum, because the goal is not blackout bingo. The goal is just to put names in squares. Tell me a story. All right. So select a common family event, and you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either take them aside and have them tell you their memory of that common family event, or you can get everybody in a group and start off with, oh, don't you remember for Grandma's 90th birthday, I flew in and surprised her, and then we went to the country club, and you know, this person showed up. Oh yeah, and remember this other person showed up. Again, object is dialogue. Everybody sharing their memories, everybody telling you what's happening, and looking at the stories for similarities and differences. I have a friend, they used to camp in an old VW bus. Their youngest daughter's memories of that tends to be that she had to go to the restroom in a portable potty that was in the bus. Her older siblings' memories are vastly different. If you ask them stories, you get 2 completely different events. You want to kind of limit anyone talking to you for 5 or 10 minutes, ideally 5. We're not writing soliloquies here. And again, this is when you really need to know your audience. If your group is prone to getting into fights and holding grudges, maybe you want to skip this game. Huh? Unless you want, a Thanksgiving Day food fight. I don't know, you do you. So that's who. You're going to show the group a photo. And they're going to tell you the who, what, why, whatever you're trying to look for. Older photos are great, but like I said, high school graduation photos from the 80s are probably going to get the kids to laugh. Photos don't have to have faces. So orange dude up here is apparently my aunt's second husband that I did not know exists, which made her second husband her third husband. So that was actually, I don't know his name, by the way. But what I do now know is if I'm researching and I find where it looks like my aunt married and I was not expecting that, well, now I know that that's a fact I should be looking for. And then you can look at things like, obviously, these are both from my grandparents' slides that we digitized. Mount Rushmore, but I have questions. Why did we take the giant picture of the nose? And how did we get it? I have things I want answered here. And something else that you can look at is places. So I looked at this top picture with the gentleman in orange for the longest time, trying to figure out what house this is. Well, what house this is that when we digitized the slides, we digitized it backwards. So this is my grandparents' house, which I've always known to have the garage on the left side. And on the right side, when I walk up, is this planter where you can see the corner. It has a light pole, that bush, and the door. So it took me the longest time to realize that is my grandparents' house. It's just backwards. So if you have places you can't place, that's where relatives are good and they might see something like that. The other thing is you'll get people who disagree on who's in the photo. And that's a lot of fun. So we call this Craig's game, Picture My Picture. We share it all the time now because it's an awesome game. So you take a photo, copy them onto a piece of paper or put a copy of a photo on a piece of paper. Have people write who it is, where it is, what it is, whatever you're asking. And then they write their name next to that photo if they want a copy of it. So this gives them an incentive to actually look at the photo and participate in the game. But the other thing you can do is you can take documents or the back of photos and play, what did this person write? Because a lot of times you will look at this death certificate, I think is what's up here. And how many of you looked at a death certificate and go, well, they either died of pleurisy or rattlesnake bite? I don't know. It could go either way. So let's have some votes. What does that say? Or you look at the back of the picture and you're like, okay, this is either my great aunt Edith or this is Fred from down the lane. I don't know what they wrote on here. So you can utilize this technique in a lot of ways. And again, you're getting information, but you're having fun. And by giving them a copy of it, you're also incentivizing them to play with you. If you have other people who might have photos, and you can encourage them to bring them too. This doesn't have to be the all you show. Everyone answers. So you're going to have a set of questions. You're going to have a container, and you're going to draw those questions out of the container. The key, though, is to make some of them funny and some of them serious. Because, again, this isn't an interrogation. So it could be simple. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite Muppet? Did you have pets? Or how many jobs did Grandpa have? What's something special in X's house that you remember? Are there special heirlooms that you remember? If you could have had a different profession, what would you have chosen? So again, we're trying to draw people out to provide information that maybe wouldn't normally come out if you're just asking them questions. If you have a really fun-loving family, you can have them answer using charades or Pictionary. You see how your family works with that. family dice game. So we actually have two versions of this that will be on the website under documents. And you roll dice and you answer the question associated with your roll. So the one that's on the screen, if you roll a 2 and a 2, you answer share your mother's maiden name. The other one is a grid, and it's like reading a map. If you roll a 3 and a 5, you see which box the 3 and the 5 converge on, and you answer the question in that box. So it's kind of a fun way. Again, you can make these questions whatever you want. We're giving you a starting point. So you can, if you want a younger version, you know, what was your high school mascot or what's your elementary school mascot? If you're looking for specific information, these are really great ways to do it with the dice game, because you can make all of your questions focus on a family. If you are looking for your maternal line or your paternal line, this is a game where you can really customize those questions to get those answers. My baby wrote me a letter. I was having fun with names. What can I say? This works really well with a generation that doesn't particularly like email, although you can absolutely do it over email. I don't suggest you do it over text because you want actual responses back. It's hard to write a book in text. So you take 5 sheets of stationery, you have a list of questions for people to choose from, or they can use their own. And the first letter is going to tell the person what's going on. Hey, we're here at Thanksgiving. I'm going to be sending you a question, and I'd like you to answer it so I can learn more about my family. Reason this works is it's all done at one time. You don't have to remember to write a letter. You're going to sit there and you're going to do all 5 of them at once. Include a self-addressed stamped envelope and a sheet of stationery if you want to encourage a reply. You're going to make your little packets. You're going to address them. You're going to put a stamp on them, and you have no reason not to do it. And the questions could be things like, what's your fondest childhood memory? What's your biggest regret? Tell me about your wedding. How many companies have you worked for? Did you have TV growing up? You know, what technological advancements have you seen in your lifetime? Anything you're looking for can be written in these letters, but one question per letter. It's nothing overwhelming, and people can just write you right back. Jenga. How many played Jenga? Nobody's played Jenga? Okay, a couple people played Jenga. So for those who don't know, it's block tower. You're supposed to get the blocks out without the tower toppling down. Well, take a third to half of those blocks and write a question on it. And if you get that block out and it has a question on it, you have to answer that question. So it's a little added twist. Not only do you have the stress of trying to get the Jenga block out, but if you don't want a question, you're going to have to guess if your block has a question or not. So a little extra challenge, a fun way. Jenga topples, you start over. And y'all ask questions again. So the last 3 really aren't games, but sometimes you just have to talk to people. Get a group of people together if they're willing to be recorded, either audio, visual, and ask them a question. It's similar to when we talked about the story before, but this time you're going to ask them a question for the group and have additional questions if the conversation needs to keep going. So if you're looking for information specifically, say, about your grandparents, you could say, you know, hey, who knew which, you know, the grandma worked for an aircraft manufacturer during World War II? Or do you remember the picture they always had in the hallway? So a lot of different things that you can ask to get that conversation going, because again, the point is the conversation. The conversation is where that information that you didn't know about is going to come out. Fame at last. Relatives aren't going to be around forever, and sometimes you just have to take the chance to talk to them. This is best before or after an event. Don't take them away from the event. just have a list of questions, make sure you have a plan, sit down in a quiet area and conduct an interview. I recommend they know the recording and a lavalier microphone, which is what I have on here. It just plugs into your phone. And especially if you have someone who talks quietly, it can really help make sure that you're getting all the information from them. Family tree. So again, not really a game, but lay out a family tree. Let people talk about it. If you have photos on your family tree, even better. Have people put information in that you may not know or comments in that you may not know. You know, if you've got somebody on there and maybe you don't know how they passed away, but somebody else does, then they can add that information for you. You know, they're just conversation starters. So just a few other things you can do while you've got people together. Recipe swaps. This is a great way to get the in-laws involved, because the biggest problem is with some of these other games is if you've been married 20 or 25 years, you probably have stories. If you've been married 3 months, oh, you're probably going to be in a problem. But again, that comes where the questions can be customized, where maybe you're asking about Grandma Stone and no one knows, the person who's answering doesn't know about Grandma Stone. Okay, well, what's your fondest memory of your Grammy? Recreate childhood or ancestor photos. So I'm sure we've all seen online where, you know, the kids are recreating the photos from when they were 3, 4, and 5 while they're adults. Well, you can do that, or you can recreate an ancestor photo. So harness over here, go get a beard and a long coat, and we can recreate him with some modern day people. Or put photos like this out, other vintage photos you have, and who looks like who. Find your modern day doppelganger. Genealogy pong. It's like beer pong with less alcohol. So put you put a question on a piece of paper in the bottom of the cup. Take your ping pong ball, and if the ping pong ball lands in the cup, you have to answer the question. If you would like to have a drink as a reward for answering your question, feel free. After about 10 drinks, answers might get more fun. You never know. You can take things, you know, we talked about using Jenga. You could take things like the game of life, literal board game, but then you ask questions as those major life events come up. So they went to trades, they went to college. All right, what was your first job? What college did you go to? What was your major? You know, they get to children. Well, either if they have children, you can ask them about their children. If they don't have children, then you can say, what's your favorite childhood memory? Or what was it like growing up? Or where were you born? All the way through, there's cards that say, you know, spend $2,000 for your dream vacation. Okay, well, what's your dream vacation, or have you been on your dream vacation, and describe it? All the way to retirement. If you're already retired, you can tell us what retirement looks like. If you're not already retired, then you can tell us what you hope it looks like. So you can also test your relatives' knowledge with stuff you already know. So you can play Kahoot or similar, which is Kahoot's an online game. The question goes up on a screen, everybody answers on their phone, and then it tells you who got it right or wrong. So the question could be, you know, Grandma was born in 1910, 1922, 1935, or 1928. And they answer which one they think it is. There's also Jeopardy, which is Jeopardy, created by the BYU Family History Technology Lab. You can go and set up your Jeopardy board. So, you know, I take the Harrison side for 200 and just answer the questions. You can always play 20 questions, and you can also do guess that ancestor. So I'm thinking of someone born in who had, you know, 12 children and was married to McCage and lived in Kansas. Who am I talking about? There's all sorts of things. You can take memory match and and take identical photos and have people match them up and then talk about what they found. You can do a scavenger hunt with a family heirloom, describing the heirloom, so people have to know what they're talking about to go find it. But the main thing is to have fun. So like I said, the goal of these activities is to get information, but to have fun. Photos are great. And try to have a plan if you want specific information, so that the questions you're asking are 80% geared to getting that. Don't make them 100%. Fun is the key word here, guys. Fun, games, happiness. Because as I stated before, if you don't know what happened, you don't know to look for it. So if you don't know that great grandpa worked in an oil field, and all of a sudden during this, they're like, oh yeah, I remember he worked in the oil field. We used to have this. And you're like, wait, what? Where was I? Now you know, and now you know to go look for stuff. So I said it'd be a very quick presentation. We're done. Any questions from anyone? Yes. Have I done any of these? I have not actually done any of these in relation to genealogy, but yes, I have played these games in other settings. Yeah. Anybody else?
I was not a question, but just kind of additive. I found just setting up some of the sharing some of these interesting stories that you uncover starts a cascade of conversations. When Judy and I were in this room on Veterans Day, I uncovered something about would be a first cousin of my grandmother who was killed teaching flying in World War I, not World War II, so very early on. And I posted it out there for family on Facebook. And a lot of people, because I don't see that particular part of the family anymore at Christmas, started some really interesting conversations. It was like, wait, who? And then I just find that when you start that, it opens up just opens up a ton of conversations. And for a lot of people who, and I know these folks are weird, they don't want to spend hours looking for birth certificates and death certificates. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they do want to hear, wait, we had a cousin who was who taught people how to fly for World War I, and that just kicks all sorts of conversations off.
Right. And that's really the point, is to kind of start going down those rabbit holes of family stories that, like I said, you may not have heard. My mom and I did it just the other day, where one of my great uncles, she's saying, oh, and he did this and this and this. And I went, wait, what? I knew him. I didn't know any of that, but I knew him. So yeah, a lot of it's just having fun and getting those conversations open, so people feel free to talk about it. Yeah, Craig.
Good point. Sometimes this can be just even a spontaneous thing. I was doing research where we had a cousin in the family Bible that a great aunt of his had left him. We open it up and there's some rule-free delivery stationery in there that has notes from when there was a barn season in like 1915. And my great and my grandmother both remember that barn very well and started talking and telling me stories about it, about hiding in there when they were. So it was this very interesting thing that it was completely tangential to what we were getting the Bible for. But just because that happened to come up and be found in the pages of it, it sparked a different conversation.
Exactly. So for those of you online who may not have heard Craig, his family had a great aunt who brought a family Bible over, and within it they found some notices, some written notes.
Who helped and who donated hay and things like that.
Right, about a barn raisin. And people who donated and who helped and who brought hay. And that made his aunts great aunt and grandmother started having a conversation. They remembered the barn. They remembered playing in it. Not why anyone thought the Bible was going to be helpful, but it ended up shedding a lot of light on some stuff that Craig didn't know about. Anybody else?
And then I think like the bingo game, it seems like where you have a number of generations, you almost have to really watch out for that. And maybe that's a game that is best for younger people to play, like with the older people that are there. Because I've heard, people talk about, how do I engage children? I don't want to sit there and bore them. The children may not be sure what to ask. And it seemed like games like this would be a good way to get things started. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And like the bingo game and the Jenga game and the photos are really a great way to get the younger people involved. Like I said, I don't know if you've ever shown the pictures from the 1970s to the kids of today. But they have some comments. They have things to say. And it, again, opening up that dialogue and just letting them think about what's happening and letting them feel included. Not a lot of times at 7, you're not real thrilled to go find a birth certificate. Like, I don't know why. Yeah, Craig. Mhm.
Family bond, their kids, spreadsheet. Basically, family tree.
Yeah.
They could actually play with use those pictures in a device and learn basically about some of their needs.
Yep, that's a great idea. If you didn't hear, so Craig made memory cards for the younger generation, kind of with photos of their parents or grandparents and of the family tree. And then they can learn about their family that way. So absolutely. Other comments? No? All right. Well, I thank you for coming. I think we are done for the Zoom portion, and we're gonna let the people in here play a little while. I've got to go find my cup full of random facts.
All right. Thank you, Gabby. And yeah, we'll go ahead and Phyllis and Marilyn, thank you. I'll let you guys go. We'll drop off the Zoom and we'll have some cookies and coffee and tea here for a little while longer. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.